It's the 29th of December 2025, and today I want to talk about why I don't donate to charities. Now, I know there is likely to be some knee-jerk reactions that the reason I don't donate to charities is because I'm inherently selfish and I just don't give a fuck about people. Ironically, this reasoning has some basis in truth, it's just aimed at the wrong person. Let me elaborate. I'm regularly approached by people on the street and sometimes even at my door, politely asking to donate to this or that charity. Kids' cancer research, veterans donations, rescue helicopters, and various other kinds of charitable organizations are constantly asking myself and others to give money, with some of them asking me to sign up for a subscription so a regular donation can be set up. It's usually a young person who does this, presumably because it's cheaper for the organization to pay them a minimum wage. I mean, it's an onerous job for sure, knocking on strangers' doors, being greeted by occupants who are invariably annoyed at being interrupted, and then giving them the same speech over and over and over again. I certainly wouldn't want that job myself. Occasionally, it's an adult accompanied by children, which I often think is a disingenuous tactic to dissuade, annoyed occupants, annoyed people in the house from shouting at the person for interrupting their lunch or dinner, which they invariably seem to do. The reasonable person isn't going to tell the stranger at their door to fuck off in front of some cute, innocent little kiddies just helping mummy or daddy get money for charity. I guess it makes sense, targeting people when they're most likely to be at home, i.e. during meal times, because it means less unanswered knocks at the door. And I'll admit it, there have been times I've ignored those knocks myself because I simply can't be bothered dealing with them, or because I'm in the middle of a project that requires my full attention. If you've ever been, gluing a model together, for example, you're at a crucial moment, you can't leave your desk, and then someone knocks at the door. It's really annoying. It's not the canvas's interruptions that fundamentally annoy me. It's that they target the wrong people, in my opinion. The people who have the most capacity to support charitable organizations with the least negative consequences to themselves are indeed wealthy people. They've got the most amount to spare, and therefore they're not going to suffer from sparing that amount to a charitable organization. So one has to ask the obvious question: why don't charitable organizations focus their efforts on wealthy people instead of knocking on random strangers' doors? Wouldn't this be a logical and practical strategy to target wealthy people, that is, that would have been adopted a long time ago, to the point that very few people would even be aware of most charities wanting to get donations? And as an aside, what's logical and practical solutions in our society usually seem to be ignored due to the human condition getting in the way of doing the right thing. Generally speaking, too many competing selfish and irrational interests results in convoluted complexities and obfuscation that the normie explains away as just being the way things are. Now, I didn't want to be too biased or completely uninformed as to my reasoning about this, so I decided to ask AI why charities don't target wealthy people. Now, for transparency, I used Copilot, and it responded with six key points. So I'm just going to go through each point and then make a comment on what AI mentioned. And I'm not sure if I can call it reasoning. I don't think AI is doing reasoning here. It's probably just summarizing a published narrative. So I would take a guess and say that this is going to be fairly accurate as to the status quo reasoning for why wealthy people aren't targeted that much. So the first point was, it said wealthy donors are already heavily approached. That large charities have entire teams that are dedicated to major donor fundraising, corporate partnerships, philanthropic networks, and grant applications. But wealthy donors are few in number, hard to reach, highly selective, and often already committed to specific causes. And it finishes number 1 with, so while they give large amounts, they're not a reliable or scalable source on their own. This is interesting to me because, I mean, the excuse of wealthy donors being few in number is true, but it's a classic composition division logical fallacy, whereby the wrong number is focused on, and therefore it's a false argument. And this is similar to when companies make large profits. So when companies who make large profits excuse the totality of that profit by describing the small percentage they make per item sold. For example, we're selling you a toaster, and the profit is only 0.05%. Therefore, the fact that we make billions of dollars a year, it's focusing on the wrong number. The important number when thinking about wealthy donors, to me, is the amount of that money that they have as surplus compared to the average person. The hard to reach argument is funny as well, because it's as if you were the police and you gave up on trying to catch a criminal because it's just really hard to find them. So on to point number 2 that AI came up with. It says door-to-door and street fundraising is about volume, not wealth. Charities know that most people won't give. A small percentage will. A tiny percentage will sign up for recurring donations. But because they contact thousands of people, the math works. It's the same logic as supermarkets offering loyalty cards, streaming services offering free trials, and political campaigns canvassing. It's a numbers game. So I thought about that, and the door knocking being a volume issue makes sense. But this ignores the fact that wealthy people can provide the equivalent donations that would make up the volume by virtue of their wealth. So it just seems like an excuse to me. If we go to point number 3 that AI made, regular small donations are more stable than big one-offs. Wealthy donors often give large amounts at irregular intervals and sometimes tied to tax planning or PR cycles. But charities need predictable monthly income, stable cash flow, and long-term donor relationships. A $20 monthly donor is often more valuable over time than the one-off $10,000 gift. And this to me is another non-argument. It implies that wealthy donors aren't capable of making scheduled regular donations. The argument that wealthy donors only donate due to tax planning or PR cycles does make sense, but it's more damning of the behavior of wealthy people and what their focus is on. In other words, they're more concerned about either how they look as a person or a company, in other words, public relations, or they're only going to donate when it suits them from a taxation point of view. We go on to number 4. Door-to-door fundraising builds public awareness. Even if you don't donate, the interaction increases brand recognition, spreads information about the cause, normalizes giving. I'm not really sure what that means, normalizes. I guess they want people to think that giving is normal. Okay. And finally, keeps the charity visible in the community. It's marketing as much as fundraising. Yeah, that makes sense. Don't really have any criticism of that. So let's go on to the 5th point. There's 2 more left. There's number 5. Wealthy donors often prefer privacy. Many high net worth individuals don't want cold calls. They avoid unsolicited approaches, give through foundations or advisors, and prefer curated invitation-only events. Charities can't simply knock on their door. Access is controlled. And this is another non-argument. I mean, it ignores the reality. For starters, it ignores the reality of anonymous donors, as if wealthy people can't be anonymous donors. Of course they can. And in the comment, charities can't simply knock on their door because access is controlled. It's another, example of wealthy people's behaviour, implying it's okay for charities to knock on a poorer person's door, but those rich people, they get to control if and when that happens. Finally, number 6, ethics and fairness. Charities generally avoid targeting people only because they're wealthy, Charities generally avoid targeting people only because they're wealthy and avoid appearing to pressure high-income individuals and avoid creating a perception that only the rich should fund social good. Public fundraising spreads the responsibility across society. The ethics and fairness argument's interesting. It's implying that charities don't want to create a perception that only the rich should fund social good, and that public fundraising spreads the responsibility across society. I go back to my composition division argument. It's focusing on the wrong number, and it also doesn't consider that the reason that fundraising needs to be spread across society is because those in a position to solve the funding needs don't give enough in the first place. The question of how legitimate are charitable organisations also needs to be discussed. How do you know a charity is acting in the best interests of the people they claim to support? How much of what you donate actually goes to those in need? According to some sources, the amount of income that actually goes to spending on charitable activities instead of overheads can vary from 26.2% to 87.3%, and that the larger and more complex charities tend to donate the least. It's well known that philanthropy is sometimes used for money laundering and also to improve the public image of the donator. Again, it's a public relations exercise instead of being a genuine organisation. In New Zealand, we have a charities register that's based on the Charities Act of 2005. I'll provide a link in the notes of the video for anyone who's interested. It's purported to aim to promote public trust and confidence in the charitable sector. However, its membership isn't mandatory. What protections does your own country have? And how many people confirm that a charity is legit before they actually donate? So given you know my stand on the issue, does that mean I don't donate or help people at all? No, it doesn't. For example, I'm a long-time blood donor. I don't see this in the same way or the same type of donation as donating to a charity, because donating your blood or your plasma or platelets or any blood product is, for starters, independent of your wealth. A poor person can donate just as much or as little as a billionaire. And it also has a demonstrably positive effect on society. People's quality of life depends on people donating blood products. And in some cases, it's literally the difference between a person living or dying. For example, if they get cancer. And I'm not saying that all charitable organizations are inherently bad or corrupt for not focusing on wealthy people, nor am I saying that they don't provide a valuable community service. Some of them do. I'm just very cynical when it comes to contributing to problems that I believe can be more easily solved by other means. To be honest, I've yet to provide those kind of arguments to people knocking on your door asking to donate to a charity. It would be really interesting to actually hear what their responses are. And I wonder if any of the viewers on this video have done this. And if so, I'd be interested to hear, what they told you. So let me know in the comments what you think, and thank you very much for listening. Bye for now.